The rule of force, wearing the mask of law, how illegal foreclosure exposes the quiet death of justice. The overlap between "you have no right to defend your property" and the ideology behind state-sanctioned illegal foreclosure is no coincidence. Both rest upon the same intellectual and moral failure, the refusal to think beyond first-order effects, the inability to see the social collapse that follows when trust is replaced by force. The reasoning goes: the bank claims you owe a debt. The state enforces the bank's claim. Therefore, they may take your home, even if no debt exists, no standing exists, and the documents are forged. After all, the system must function. The state has spoken. But this is not the rule of law. It is the rule of force wearing the mask of law, and it is extraordinarily dangerous. The unwritten contract of civilization. The implicit social contract that allows a civilization to exist is simple. I will respect your property, your liberty, and your person so long as you do the same for me. This isn't a document you sign, it's a principle you live by. It's the unspoken agreement that keeps societies from collapsing into chaos. When that contract is honored, trust grows. When it's broken, especially by the powerful, trust dies, and freedom dies with it. But what happens when the institutions meant to enforce that contract, courts, banks, law enforcement, become the very entities that violate it? That's where we are today. When the system turns on its citizens. Ask anyone who has lived through an illegal foreclosure what it feels like. It begins quietly. A letter arrives with the wrong loan number. A new servicer claims they own your mortgage. You start receiving statements for payments that were already made. You call, they transfer you, delay you, lose your records. Then, one morning, there's a notice taped to your door: foreclosure pending. You gather every receipt, every document, every proof of payment, believing truth will prevail. But the courtroom doesn't want your truth. It wants your paperwork, the very paperwork the bank manipulated. You stand before a judge who treats your home like an accounting error, who waves away forged documents because the system must continue. You watch lawyers for billion-dollar institutions stand shoulder to shoulder with government attorneys, all arguing that your right to due process is an inconvenience. It's there, in that quiet betrayal, that you see the mask slip from the face of justice. Because the true horror of illegal foreclosure isn't the loss of property, it's the loss of protection. It's the moment you realize the system you trusted to defend you now serves those who exploit you. The weaponization of process. Illegal foreclosure thrives in the shadows of bureaucracy. It hides behind language, servicing transfers, assignments, endorsements, default judgments, words that sound legitimate but conceal theft dressed in procedure. When banks discovered they could fabricate mortgage assignments after the fact, when they realized courts wouldn't question robo-signed documents, foreclosure became an assembly line of legalized fraud. Entire homes were transferred on paper in seconds. Signatures were forged by machines. People who never worked for a bank suddenly became vice presidents of 10 different financial institutions overnight, all signing away other people's lives. And when caught, no one went to prison. Instead, settlements were paid, a fine for stealing homes. Justice was replaced by accounting. The state saw this and called it resolution. But to the people who lost everything, it felt like organized crime in a suit and tie. Property, freedom, and the illusion of law. Property rights are not about greed or materialism. They are about sovereignty. Your home, your land, your labor, these are extensions of your freedom. To own something is to say, I control the fruits of my work, not the state, not the bank. That is why tyranny always begins with the erosion of property rights. Because when you can take a person's home, you can take their dignity. And once dignity is gone, submission follows. The American Revolution wasn't just fought over taxes, it was fought over ownership. Who owns the land you build on? Who owns the wealth you create? When banks fabricate documents and courts look the other way, that question is answered. You don't. It's not an accident, it's a system that masks coercion behind process, that hides violence behind authority, that calls theft lawful execution. Positive rights, coercion, and the quiet chains of debt. Collectivist ideologies justify coercion by rebranding it as compassion. They call it positive rights. a right to health care, a right to food, a right to housing. But every positive right requires taking something from someone else by force. Illegal foreclosure operates on the same principle. The so-called right of a bank to foreclose without standing assumes your labor, your property, your title are theirs to seize. When the sheriff arrives with a court order based on forged documents, the message is simple: comply or face violence. When the state enforces that theft while shielding the perpetrators, the message becomes clearer: your obedience is worth more than your truth. And so, coercion becomes law, and law becomes the tool of coercion. The human cost behind every statistic is a shattered life. A mother forced to pack her children's toys into garbage bags because the movers are coming. A veteran who built his home through decades of labor, now sleeping in a car outside the property he still legally owns. An elderly couple who spent 40 years paying their mortgage only to be told that a clerical error means the debt never existed, but the foreclosure does. They are the silent casualties of paperwork tyranny. They are the faces of a war fought with signatures instead of bullets. The tragedy isn't only material, it's spiritual. Every fraudulent foreclosure teaches people that justice is a performance, not a principle. That evidence doesn't matter if you're poor. That truth bends to whoever has the better lawyer. And when enough people believe that, civilization doesn't need enemies. It will collapse from within. The collapse of trust. Trust is the currency of civilization. Without it, laws are just ink on paper. Illegal foreclosure doesn't just steal homes, it dissolves trust in the system itself. Once people realize the courts are not neutral, they stop believing in due process. Once they see that signatures can be forged without consequence, they stop believing in contracts. And once they understand that power protects itself before it protects justice, they stop believing in authority altogether. This is how societies decay, not through sudden violence, but through quiet betrayal. Every time the law bends for the powerful, the foundation weakens for everyone else. The stakes? This is why illegal foreclosure is not just paperwork. It's not just a house. It is the visible symptom of a deeper moral infection. When banks fabricate documents and profit from void loans, when courts uphold theft instead of justice, when state power is leveraged to strip you of what you own, what's stolen is more than a deed. What's lost is an entire way of life. You are not merely losing 4 walls and a roof. You are losing the invisible architecture of trust and liberty that sustains a functioning civilization. When citizens fear their own institutions, democracy has already failed. When justice is a transaction, freedom becomes a privilege. The reckoning ahead. The question is no longer whether the system is broken. The question is whether people will have the courage to rebuild what was lost. Not just homes, but principles. Because the greatest danger is not the corruption of the courts or the greed of the banks. The greatest danger is the apathy of the people. The day we stop caring about injustice because it didn't happen to us is the day it becomes inevitable that it will. The foreclosure crisis is not over. It has evolved. It is now digital, algorithmic, hidden beneath new financial instruments. But its moral DNA is unchanged: profit without accountability, theft disguised as legality. And until that is confronted, no one's home or future is truly safe. The restoration. If the law no longer protects the people, then the people must protect the spirit of law itself. That is not rebellion, that is restoration. It begins with truth, unvarnished, uncomfortable, undeniable truth. It grows with unity, neighbors helping neighbors, communities refusing to turn away. And it succeeds only when we remember that the system serves us, not the other way around. Because freedom isn't something granted, it's something guarded. And the moment we stop guarding it with courage, compassion, and conscience, we will wake up to find it already gone. So the next time someone says, "It's just a house," remember, it's never just a house. It's a line in the sand between ownership and obedience, between liberty and control. The rule of law must mean something again, or the mask of law will become the face of tyranny.
At glgse7en@gmail.com. Free yourself today. We're excited to provide you with access to the most up-to-date technology and research that have successfully helped numerous individuals in the past. We're confident that they can do the same for you. Please don't hesitate to contact us if you have any questions or concerns. We highly recommend reviewing our information packet, which contains cutting-edge and proven knowledge. We believe that access to this information is important for everyone, and we encourage you to share it with your friends and family.